Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Aware Athlete Show. Today, we're excited to have with us the founders and co-founders of Elevated Retreats. Elevated Retreats, mindful running retreats in the beautiful town of Salida, Colorado. And usually I try to introduce my guests a little bit, but today we have three people on with us. And so this is a team effort, the founding of Elevated Retreats. And so I'm going to ask you to, if you could just briefly introduce yourselves. Who would like to start?
I'll take it. My name is Harald Kasper, and I've played with all the components that we are putting in this retreat for a long time. I'm a physical therapist. I've been a runner for a long time. I'm a Feldenkrais practitioner for now, I think 12 years. And I have brought the exploration that the Feldenkrais work has inspired me to do pretty intensely into the running. And so more and more over the years, it became clear to me that I developed some expertise to build a bridge from the plain old exploration of the body to the actual function of running.
Yeah. Okay.
And I found a couple good friends, and we connected actually in my practice, and felt like we were on the same track, had the same passion, and got together. And thanks to them, we've gotten things going.
Awesome.
All right, I guess I'll go next since he's talking about me. So I'm Anthony Durcey. I would say I was the doer, like the person, the benefactor of Harald's Feldenkrais expertise. I went in, I was having like an injury with my foot, and it just kind of snowballed into this, like he was talking about, like we both have this passion for running. The other company that my wife and I started, it's called Valtina, and she's a therapist, a mental therapist, LCSW, and I do mindfulness for all of our clients. So they see her for the therapy part, and then I see them on a separate occasion where we kind of cover the mindful part, how to implement what they're learning in therapy into their everyday life, which really, I think, is that same bridge that Harald's talking about. How to use Feldenkrais to become aware of what's going on inside, but then that mindful component of actually how to apply it to whatever it is in life. And we happen to both love running. And so we just started snowballing in this idea of having a retreat, trying to get more people aware of Feldenkrais and its benefits and how great that plays out in your life. And then that other component of how we can be mindful always with everything we do in our life, that running can be kind of the caveat that helps us kind of bridge that gap to just an overall enjoying life type of experience.
All right. Awesome.
Good morning. I'm Devin Kasper. I'm Harald's wife, and we actually met at our Feldenkrais training in Santa Fe. Oh my gosh, 12 years ago.
That with Diana?
With
Yes.
Diana, yeah. Razumi and Bear. Yeah, we did their training. It was wonderful. So that was over the course of 4 years, we met in Santa Fe 4 times a year, 2 weeks at a time. And so we got to know each other through that class. And I was originally from Boston, coming from Boston. So one day I put everything in a U-Haul and moved out to Salida and never looked back. So super excited. I'm not a runner, but I have a passion for awareness work, for the Feldenkrais method, and very excited that Anthony and Renee are joining Harald in this dream of his to create awareness through running, awareness through movement, running.
No, I like that. Awareness through running. Yeah.
And Devin came to the Feldenkrais work from a different direction, from the theater world.
Yeah.
Which really is almost closer to that whole principle of that we express who we are through movement.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Acting.
Yeah, a lot of people can benefit from, performers and athletes alike. And it really helped me fully understand the whole of myself. And I think once you kind of map that out in your brain, it's empowering and can really bring heightened awareness and technique to anything you do in life, actually.
Yeah, actors really have to embody whatever they're trying to express to the audience,
Yeah.
I was watching an episode of Star Trek last night, The Next Generation,
Nice.
in which they were going to do a play, and the doctor was leading the play, and she had to ask the captain to participate. So the great voice that Patrick Stewart has, and he said no, he wasn't interested in. And besides, he said, I'm not much of an actor.
It's so funny when he's like the best Shakespearean actor who's ever lived. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
So, Anthony, you've already said, how did you come to mindfulness work, and what's your background there?
Wow. So my degree from college was exercise sports science. And I actually started out kind of in that personal training, strength and conditioning coach. I spent a year coaching junior college basketball and golf. I actually, and that might be actually the first time I really came into play, because I'm not a golfer. I don't golf, or I definitely hadn't at that time. But in order to get the job as the assistant basketball coach, I had to take the head coaching job. That's how you made more money doing junior college coaching. And so I started out just getting the golfers up at 6 a.m, and we do a 3-mile run and do some lifting weights and all that kind of stuff. But it started to really play out in our golf meets, where our players would actually come to me after and just be like, so crazy. Everybody was tired after hole 15. And I just knew I was going to end up beating them, because I had 3 miles a day of running in me. I knew I wasn't going to get tired. And so we started doing a lot of visualization, what was going to happen. I couldn't help with their swing. I told them to go see the golf pro about the swing, but I brought in basketball training in terms of if you miss a free throw, you go run. So I had these golfers on the tee box. If they didn't hit it 250 yards at least in the fairway, they would run, as kind of that incentive to be aware of what they were doing and to not take any shot for granted, kind of a thing. And then we slowly worked into everybody becoming aware of what their strengths were, what their weaknesses were. In tournaments, right? You don't play the shot that is your weakest shot. It doesn't matter if it's going to get you to the green or not. You play to what your strength is, because those numbers add up huge when you're playing as a team. And maybe ironically, maybe all coincidentally, but we ended up going to nationals. And I don't know if the school's ever gone to nationals before that or after, but we went to nationals. We finished 22nd in the nation. We were playing schools. It was in the tournament was in Dothan, Alabama. All the other schools are from Texas and Florida and California, all these places that could play year round. And here's this school from Lamar, Colorado, that just all of a sudden kind of showed up. And with that, right, in personal training, you're doing a lot of therapy, getting people to exercise and continuing along that journey. You're really dealing with a lot of what's going on inside that keeps them from being healthy, keeps them from using movement to help them become more fit. And so with all that, I started this research into how to get people into the zone, that sports zone. And for 20 years, I would say at least once a week, I'm trying to find a new article, something new about kind of that connection between the brain and the body. And now, after I met Renee, we started incorporating the unique self, that person that if I say that, the whole world will know exactly what you're talking about. There's this part of you that's you, and there's no way you can disconnect from that. And once that comes into play, we start to have this awareness of what our body can do for us. what our brain can do for us, not what is it doing? How am I just along for this ride? I become aware of what's happening. And then, fast forward umpteen years later, sitting in Harold's therapy office, like we're on the same page. We're talking about the same thing, right? And it's, do you really want to go the route of just ultrasound and ice and electrostim, or do you want to figure out like what's going on, like what's causing it or what isn't causing it, like whatever that is? And it just exploded from there. Conversations led to a meeting, led to starting a company, led to let's put together a retreat. And so hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, in fact, I couldn't have asked you questions to bring that out as well as you just did. That is really, I think also you had a foot injury is what brought you into the PT clinic.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, I think that is really one of the things that attracted me to the Feldenkrais method, is because it's so universally applicable, and it and the whole mental, the whole scientific conceptual framework is so fascinating. And so what you've gotten into there is, I think, a really big missing element in the running community today. So when something happens, why did it happen? I have someone recently said, I have this problem that comes up every time I run. Every time I run more than 10 miles, it just happens. Well, what was happening in the first 10 miles, that you didn't pay any attention to before? So really, I'll ask all three of you to comment on what is the missing element in training and improvement and enjoyment in the running community at large today.
I'll start here again. It's in my days, most people that step through the door, they come exactly with a question like you brought up. Something hurts, something doesn't function anymore after a certain activity, often pain. And a lot of those people just want to be fixed and want to go on with their life without this discomfort, without this inconvenience. But I realize I respond to whoever comes to the door, but I realize that my passion to work with people got a lot bigger when people showed interest of really changing how they would do things, preventing the next injury from happening, or even getting inspired to elevate to a whole new movement quality through the incidents of the accident or the injury or whatever they had. I taught for a few years weekly awareness to movement classes. So people come and usually it's on the floor, they lie on the floor, and I go through one of these sequences that has all that wisdom from Moshe Feldenkrais. And we're living in a small community here, about 6,000 people. And through those years, I think it was 3 years, I realized that there were not enough people getting interested in getting into this rhythm of meeting once a week and exploring. So ultimately I realized, well, the market is not here. And I could actually project what was going on through other people's mind. Here in Salida, everyone is active, and when they have extra time, they jump on the bike and they go running and they go jump in the river, and there's all these fun activities, and no one truly has the time to lie down on the floor and do the work. So I realized what I need to do is build the bridge from what people really doing there on the floor and getting more into their body to fun activities, to what they are really doing out there, to activities where they use their body. And that's what has been developing.
Yeah, so actually people will take the time and they will buy into the idea that you have to foam roll and you have to do certain exercises and certain stretching. So they'll spend a lot of time doing that, but they don't have time then to lie on the floor and explore what, how they're doing what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
But as soon they make the connection, I think this is going to shift. I mean, Anthony hasn't been an exception. There have been numerous people that came to the practice that did have that ambition to go the next step and really keep exploring what else the body can do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful thing that you said there about building the bridge, because occasionally Moshe would do a lesson lying on the floor and then he'd take it into standing. And some lessons, a few lessons he had, you know, you would actually be doing a judo roll by the time you got done, or you'd be doing something. But it's very hard for people to make the bridge between lying on the floor and exploring and doing what they love to do. And so I think it's absolutely essential that finding a way to build those bridges, like you said, to make it relevant immediately.
I think another thing, you know, you'd asked what's the missing element, and I think Harold spoke mostly about curiosity being the missing element, and how do you build the bridge? And because conventionally we're just not, like you said, we don't want to take the time to explore and be curious about what we're doing. So but I think another key component that I think will be addressed in these upcoming retreats, Anthony and Renee and Harold will be guiding people in, is I think too, people get unfortunately, you know, Moshe was not a guru. It was not a guru oriented method, right? It wasn't like, look at me, do what I do,
right,
see what I do. And people come, I think, with the misconception because they've been looking at their gurus and their doctors or their Pilates instructor, or you know, and people are saying, you're too old, you can't do this anymore, you shouldn't run anymore. And we kind of say, we call BS on this.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes it just takes being mindful of how you're doing it to get to a place. Maybe you can't run as fast or maybe as far, but it doesn't mean you can't run. And I run into that a lot. I hear people say, well, I used to be a runner, but I can't. And
yeah,
this seems a shame.
I was told by an orthopedic surgeon about 20 years ago not to run anymore. Now I'm 71, I can still do it. Now I definitely can't run as fast as I could 50 years ago.
Right.
But it doesn't make that much difference.
That's okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Missing
So,
link.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that?
So I would say that the space that I've noticed is, I think most people that have a skill or are trying to go accomplish something, especially if there's like a regimen involved, right? Like sets, reps, or distances, times, whatever. We always are comparing ourselves to the past, like who we were, right? Like this is where I was and I want to be that person again, or I want to be that person again, but a little bit faster, right? And to me, what Feldenkrais is about is to actually eliminate that part and say, here I am now, this is who I am now, and how do I get to where I want to be? Or how do I follow that goal? Or how do I just enjoy the next 10 miles I run, or whatever it is that we're doing? And so like, to me, there's this idea that like, you're not the runner you were at the start of a run as you are at the end of the run. You are different. You've changed. Your body did something. You became more fit, less fit. You became injured. You became less injured. Like, just depending on whatever it is that whatever it is, 30 minutes, 2 hours, however long you were out running. And we don't recognize as people that are like people that pursue goals, we don't recognize how much we're in the past. We're trying to be something that we were. And right, that's, I remember it, like, just going into Harold's office, like, our conversation wasn't about, I mean, you have to have a little bit like a history, like, how did it happen? Like, well, but then it went to, well, what are we trying to accomplish here? Where are we going? You're here. What do you want to be 2 weeks from now, or whichever? And that's, especially with runners that I've dealt with, and even when I was coaching golf and basketball, we all want to be that player that had that really good round, or right, hit that game-winning shot 3 weeks ago. Well, that's not where we are anymore. Life moves forward. It's always changing. If you become aware, right, we become mindful, we become aware of being aware, we're always moving forward, or we have the potential to move forward. We can get better, we can become more efficient, we can become more fluid, and it doesn't matter what those times are anymore. It doesn't matter what the training block says. It says, where am I today? And how can I optimize me, my body, my brain, and that unique self today? And it so ties into mindfulness and what we teach our
Spontaneity.
our clients. So
Yeah, I think that's one of the most foundational things there is, and most neglected. And I think even with myself, when I'm out doing something, and even if I have that mindset, you know, I want the quality, and I want to be, and maybe for a moment I am, and I'm deliberately right here, right now, being happy with the fitness that I have, the geographical place I'm in, you know, the emotional place I'm in. I'm happy with all that. That's my starting point, and I'm right there. But it's still a challenge, you know, to not switch back and forth. And I think the goals are necessary, because, you know, they just give you a little bit of direction. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I like to shift the emphasis from goal to intention. When you have an intention, it keeps the openness. For any action you take, you need an intention. You need to, when you start walking, you walk in a certain direction. You want something. Goal can sometimes narrow your vision. Intention will get you on the road and open it up, and then you see what life brings.
Yeah. So just the use of the word goal in our culture tends to have kind of a regimented attachment to it. Yeah. So how long have you been doing the retreats, and where are you going with them?
To be honest, we are just at the beginning. I've worked with the whole concept one-on-one for a number of years, but I'm kind of happy in my physical therapy practice, and I had the dream to bring that out for more people to enjoy quite a while ago. But being in my own rhythm and having my plate full, I never had the energy to actually do the step and go to retreats. So 6 years ago, I actually had a group of like 30 to 40 people that spend a Saturday with me, kind of doing what I called at the time a seminar. And so I did include awareness to movement lessons. I included quite a few of my experiences. I certainly spread the passion, and and I got quite some good feedback. But I realized at the end of the seminar that there was something missing on that day. That this day was actually packed too full with all of my my knowledge and my experience, and because it was so full, it went from my direction to all the participants, and there was not enough space for people, for that energy to really come together and reflect and grow and change and become more. And at that time, I realized I'm not gonna go out there like what I had in my head before, teach those seminars more and more and bigger, and let more and more people know about those principles. I have to start a different way. I have to create an environment where we can have that interaction and learn from each other, and let all this really sink in. So we haven't had a real running retreat yet. So this is in the planning. We had actually had our first one scheduled for in a week, right?
Yes,
Yes, and the whole idea was to put this retreating with the intention of running into a package of being in this beautiful town here in Salida. We live in the middle of the Rockies, and there's mountains that we can run up, and we can run along a creek, and we can run along the river. We have all these varieties. There is a beautiful energy in downtown where every weekend people play music, and we had that idea to really present that as a package to people from all over the country. And the issue is to get the word out. So none of us are marketing experts. And so we're here and trying to get your help to get the word out.
Well, I really want to be some help, because I'm really impressed with your presentation, your idea of building bridges. I think for myself, that is one thing that's a little bit lacking in the Feldenkrais method itself, the way it's being presented to the public. You know, you come, you do these ATM lessons, which are wonderful, and a lot of times people will leave that lesson. They may come back, they may not, and they don't even really understand what they did or why.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that idea of building bridges to the things we love to do is really important.
So our next intended retreat, however, is in April. We've got a 4-day retreat planned here in Salida. And we've got a 1-day workshop coming up September 25th. So the plan is we'll start a little, scale it down, have a 1-day intensive, like looking into the day of what a retreat might look like. So we're going to have an ATM lesson, a run, processing, feedback session, lunch will be provided. So we're excited for that. We've got people registering for our 1-day retreat, I guess you could say, September 25th. And Anthony, if you want to let people know how they can register for that, or for our April retreat.
Yeah, I mean, you just go to our website, right? elevatedretreatco.com, and right there's kind of the registration button, join us kind of a deal. But yeah, I mean, we have the 1-day, which is right our way to just slowly bring awareness to our movement practice, right? We just have to do things, I think, in a smaller scale to build up. And yeah, the intent is to try and get that April retreat full by using these, and we might go hit up some like running companies and stuff like that. Maybe go over into Denver, maybe do some small sample type what we're going to be doing in our retreats, that kind of stuff, kind of boots to the ground type marketing. So we're open to doing that kind of stuff if it, fits our time and that kind of space. But yeah, but just thanks to you, like you get more people aware of what we're doing, what we're trying to do. And
I'll do my best. I'm going to share the heck out of this. So
nice.
So the nice thing about the one-day retreat's going to be is that it's going to be applicable for locals. You don't have to drive long. You're right here. And in addition, there's enough people in town that have heard about my work that we won't have too much trouble to fill our spots and get really a sense of that energy that we are going for.
Right. So the one-day retreat is actually a good introduction, and it's as far as I have looked at, it's not very expensive. So go ahead and tell people about that.
Yeah, and it's in the favorite time of my year. So end of September, September 25th, we have a really good chance for all our aspen forests to be like yellow. For people that haven't experienced that, it's like amazing. Even on a cloudy day, it feels like the sun is right there. And we rented the Scout Hut, which is a nice, modern, nicely renovated space next to the river. We have grass around there to do some barefoot explorations. And we have Michelle Gerb, our superb chef, hired. So it's going to be an amazing day.
Well, I think people need to Google Salida because it's a wonderful area. It's a beautiful area. Have access to trails right around there. You also have well, I've been very interested in the town of Crestone. It's something you'd want to visit too. I'm not sure how it's grown over the last few years, but it was a very kind of foresighted ecological experiment, I think, at one time. So maybe you're aware of that.
Still there.
It's booming actually. I go there once a week.
Yeah, you have an office there?
I actually do. Yes, it's a special community.
It is. It is. My wife and I lived in Colorado for most of our married life, I guess. We're in Oregon now, so I'd really like to come out there for that one day, but I don't know whether I can pull that off or not. But let's get back to business here. You came to Feldenkrais with very interestingly, you studied engineering initially.
That's true. But actually, at the time that I signed up for the Feldenkrais education, I'd been a physical therapist for quite a while. And I'm not proud to say the idea that got me into the Feldenkrais work was, I want another tool for my clients. I've been diligent in increasing my toolbox over the years, and I felt like, I want to throw something different in there. And when I showed up to the first 2-week segment, I realized pretty fast that this was bigger than just getting a tool in my toolbox. This had the potential to change me as a person, not just as a therapist. And now I really do a mix of all what has fed me. I still have to address people that come through the door as a physical therapist. So I still have to give them a path how to get out of their pain fairly fast and efficient. But then, just like described earlier, I always hold that potential for my clients to dive deeper and go into the exploratory work. And I feel that work, even if I don't do an hour of functional integration, which is a one-on-one expression of the Feldenkrais work,
hands-on.
Even when I describe just exercises, those exercises will always have an exploratory component, because I believe that repetitive exercises are not really getting you anywhere.
So are you the only therapist in your particular clinic?
Actually, no, there's two therapists. And the other therapist has not done the Feldenkrais work. So she works very different, and she has her own fans. But while our education had been pretty similar, the way we work now is really very, very different.
Right.
Yeah.
The intention of the Feldenkrais work is beyond.
Yeah.
But when you do your physical therapy with clients, you are of a mind that any exercise, if it has any value at all, is much more valuable if it's done somewhat intelligently and with exploration and with probably some direct application to what they want to do.
Exactly.
For instance, for a runner, a static plank is not, to me, all that useful. It's okay. If you find it applicable, it's okay. But it doesn't teach you to do any of the rotation or the power movements that you need to do for running. So
yeah, that's a good example. Now, if I would teach a plank or any pose, like often I give people the perspective of yoga, and those poses are often static, but they are only static when you look at it from the outside. So, for example, I use warrior pose a lot to clarify hip rotation differentiation. And yes, you can look at a pose like that, just that you want to get as perfect as it is in the books, or as your beautiful yoga instructor. Or you can start going to the intention, the pose, and then explore those little movements. Explore what stops you. Why can't you actually get the pelvis looking straight forward? What is the limitation? What else can you use in your body to get there? And that exploration work is what makes a pose like that full and helpful for your activities.
Yeah. So when some people come in the door, they know about physical therapy, they expect physical therapy, and it's hard to move them out of that. But it sounds like your approach is just wonderful. That
yeah, thank you.
Can you speak to that? People's expectation when they walk in the door, and they won't expand it sometimes, and how is it working with that? Because we're getting into what you're doing and what you're doing here that's different from every other running retreat.
Yeah. So I'm not totally sure whether I understood your question correct, but the people that come through the door in my physical therapy office, that moment when they come through the door and they sit down in my room is a really special moment for me, because I believe that our interaction and me listening to what they really want, not the injury, but where they are, how they function, how big their horizon is. All this, when I listen to that, is already shaping the tools that I can use to help them. And it's a fragile, but a really powerful situation, that interaction of getting to know each other and the potential. And it is correct that most people come with the expectation of a more conventional physical therapy. And in addition, I have to say, probably more than 80% of people come in with some kind of pain. And while pain can be a really big motivator to change something and to look into what you're doing with your body. Pain is also like the screaming child that takes the attention away from all the subtleness that's underneath there. So having a lot of pain is actually not the ideal situation to do a really deep Feldenkrais session. So often what I do is sequencing. Often it is first get control of the runaway pain and then lean a little bit back and say, now to get back to the things that you like to do. Now we are ready to explore and go to the details and the subtleness and the fullness.
Yeah.
And with the whole running retreat, I hope that the percentage of people coming with pain is going to be a little lower, and we can start a little bit closer to that level of really the joy of movement and the idea how movement can actually shape the rest of us. And so I'm really excited about diving deeper and deeper into that part.
So one more little question before we go on with that is, I think a lot of times when people hear about mind-body training, they're thinking of something a little bit different than maybe what you might be doing. In other words, they might be thinking about, well, I'll train my body because I'll do a lot of exercise, and I'll train my mind because I'll do some meditation, which I think is wonderful. That's great. That's wonderful. But they're not thinking about putting those two together so that you actually train your movement. And it's at the same time training your mind and your body. Yes. And so without that concept, because who's ever done that? I mean, aside from the genius of Moshe Feldenkrais, who's ever done that?
Yes.
And so with that, I think not only do you build a bridge from the floor where the stress of gravity is very low to standing and to running, but also I think that if you built that mindfulness, that movement mindfulness base, that you can actually do things on the fly that you couldn't do before. So rather than letting an injury happen, you feel something that's out of balance. And because you practice this so much, you can change it before it even becomes an injury. And instead of, doing a 50K and you get halfway through it and something's starting to hurt more and more, you've actually made a very subtle adjustment through the things that you've learned that actually prevents you from going farther in that direction of injury. Can you comment on that? Because that's my experience a lot of times. You can use the imagination in a couple of different ways that we might not get into here. But very, very subtle little things that you can be aware of that can, where you're not quite balanced on this side, or I'm not going to go into details, but
yeah,
how you can make adjustments on the fly to prevent an injury because of your development of awareness.
Yes, actually, you spoke to quite a few things. I wanted to jump in several times about how Moshe Feldenkrais was really way ahead of his time with his clarity, how you can use movement to become the person who you ought to be. But the last thing that you mentioned is really the readiness, working on spontaneity. And feeding on that, I would like to go back to what we're really doing here. Most of our movements we do habitually. So we're not thinking of what we're doing. We're building on what we've learned in the past. And habit is a loaded word. We connect it with something negative, but ultimately that is the reason why we can do as complex activities as we do. when I have to teach a client how to walk from scratch, that would take years. It's so complex. Without habits, we wouldn't be able to function in this world. Now, the temptation that habit brings with it is that we use exactly the same ways of moving over and over again. And that we never look out of the box. We never explore what is also possible. And our habits do not only capture our physical self, they also capture who we think we are as an identity. So not all those things are actually making our movements fluid. So when I went to PT school, I remember we had a discussion about how many repetitions does it take to get out of your habits. And there was even some hypothesis, you can't change habit. Habit is just there. And it sounds stupid to me now, but at the time, I understand this hypothesis was born on what we see right and left. People don't change very much. And then I went into the Feldenkrais work and everything changed. And it is when you have an awareness to movement lesson or a functional integration or some other kind of true exploration, and your body is stimulated and aware enough in a learning mode, you can go through a sequence once and be totally changed, which is the total extreme opposite to what we were discussing there in the PT school about how many thousands of times you have to do it. But one time with your brain really lit up is enough to be ready to jump out of the way when the car comes or whatever it is, to make this part of who you are. And if it has gone into who you are, then yes, you use it in whatever you're doing.
Yeah. Anybody else want to comment on that?
Well, the thing about the Feldenkrais method that I've learned to appreciate is how Moshe set up such a safe learning platform. To speak to Harald's example of perhaps it only takes doing one movement sequence, one awareness through movement lesson, that wouldn't be before you could maybe incorporate it into your own being and use it from then on. That wouldn't be possible without a safe learning platform where you feel the safety to do something. And then that's why a lot of lessons are done on the floor, to feel that the safety of the floor, just that safety of the floor on your back, that you're not doing anything too crazy. And then we bring that sometimes into standing or sitting position. But I've realized when I do learn new things as an adult, like snowboarding, for example, I was maybe 40 when I picked that up. I realized, yeah, I'm more nervous. I'm more scared. I'm hesitant. I don't want to hurt myself. And when we force ourselves to learn new things in life, whether it's dancing or a new language or a sport like that, I realized, yeah, we kind of lose that no fear factor that we had as kids. And the fluidity, when you watch a baby learn how to roll over or come up to sitting or walking, crawling, they're doing that all instinctively and on their own. And they have a safe platform, and usually parents aren't telling them no, or that you didn't do that right. You didn't learn how to crawl right. Like we don't scold kids when they're learning the way we scold ourselves when we're learning something new. Oh my God, I'm never going to get it. Oh my God, I can't believe I fell again, or I'm too old for this, or, we have such a negative, I think, voice often in our heads, thinking we're older, we're supposed to do it right the first time. I mean, that's crazy. And so I love that Moshe sets up this safe platform that, like, no, there's no one judging you. You're not looking at me. There's no right way or wrong way to do this. You're going to listen to the instructions. You're going to interpret it that on your own. You're going to, go through the sequence, and maybe you don't get it the first time. Maybe it doesn't compute. Maybe you don't rewire your brain the first time, but it could happen anytime. So as long as you're feeling like no one's judging me, I think that kind of translates as the safety factor as an adult, right?
Yeah, so we've been kind of working around what's different from your retreat from everybody else's running retreat. And this is a major, major thing, because I think pretty sure that some people would be intimidated in coming into a running retreat. And there's some great running retreats out there that are going to put you through the ringer a little bit. And
not a boot camp.
No, it's not. And I think that thing of safety, you can be a little bit safe from yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're almost expected to, after you've done a few lessons and learn what it's about, you're almost expected to not get everything first time, and which is very good. So you're a little safe from yourself. You're safe from the expectations of the instructor, because they're not trying to get you to do it perfectly. And in a yoga class, you may like this or you may not, but a lot of times the instructor will come around and put their hands on your body and reshape it and push and pull and, try to get you into the right position. But we're not doing that here, and you're not doing that. And I think for myself, it's also safe, because when you're on the floor, let's say you're beginning a lesson, you're scanning your body, and the question for you, the introspective question, is asked, and what's the difference between your left knee and your right knee? Well, you don't care what everybody else's response is to that, and you can't see everybody else. So it's just a very, very wonderful learning environment.
Mhm.
And I hope people are really listening to that. And also, so it's just an extremely safe and extremely good way to be in your exploration of yourself and of movement and of running. And then I imagine that when you go out and do some of your runs, they may be a little bit shorter, just for comparison. So you do a lesson, you feel certain things, and go out and compare the results. And then maybe you just go out and have some fun on doing some of the other runs. Could you comment on just the nature of the runs that you do in your retreats?
Yeah, I think the intention is kind of exactly what you just said. We want to have, like, part of the runs to be something where you're being aware, right? You're having like this awareness of what's happening, where's some tension, maybe how can I let that go? How can I use it to an advantage? Like any types of those kind of spaces. But then at the same time, right, if we go back talking to that essence of how we learn to walk and crawl or like roll over, right? There's always smiles and happy and joy, and this idea of moving to be aware of our surroundings, be part of our surroundings. Harold talks about taking your body for a dance when you go run, right? Like dancing is fun, right? You go and you move and you allow like what your body is capable of doing that day to create joy. And so we don't always want to, right? We don't want to be so focused that we forget the enjoyment part of it. But at the same time, awareness does create like some kind of slowing of what we're doing on different runs.
And more specific to our one-day retreat that's coming up, we are planning on a really short little run in the morning, and maybe even splitting that up, run with shoes and then without the shoes on the grass. And we're actually trying to get some video footage from that to later be able to look at that and just without judging, point out how different we all run. And and that can inspire all of us to try something else out. What do we know? Is it really the perfect way that I can run? But then we do have a beautiful trail run scheduled in the Yellow Leaves in the afternoon, and that will be an out and back. So it's not too much for anyone if you can run slowly out. The people that went faster and that went a little bit further, they will meet up again, and we'll all meet at the trailhead, and yes, then have another session of digesting the experiences that we've made together.
Yeah. So another thing that we've hit on real quickly here, I think is a major problem in the running community, is the oversimplification of movement. So there's something called good form running, and all you have to do is lean forward from the ankle, maintain your posture, midfoot strike, and you get your metronome out and keep your cadence up, and now you're a good runner. But I've watched people do that, and it's so much more than that.
Yes.
And that's what you're talking about, deepening your practice. For instance, all you have to do is try to hold your head still and tuck your chin, and now you can't run at all. Really.
Mhm.
I mean, all the fluidity is gone.
Yes.
But, so deepening the practice, let me just go one more question here, and that is, can you really, each of you, I don't know, Devin, if you don't run that much, maybe, but each of you, can you share how your running has improved and deepened? What has it meant to you? And then the people that you have worked with, it's a two-part question. What are some of the great testimonials that you've gotten from them?
Yeah, I'll let Anthony and Harold speak to that.
Okay.
And I actually have to warn, I have to leave in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so I want to throw in here, I didn't, until recently, I never had anyone video my running. And I recently had that done for some video footage for our marketing with a retreat. And I was actually surprised about what I saw. The inner picture did not completely match up with what I saw.
Yeah, wonderful point. I've experienced that a lot myself.
Yeah, that was really, really interesting. And so I'm even less sure now than before to say what really changed. Like a few months ago, I probably would have said my arm swing got smoother, and I certainly have more participation of the core, and my foot, even with not really fast running, my feet are a little bit closer to the buttock in the swing phase. But do I really know that? I'm not so sure. But the crucial part is what Anthony said. It's when I go out running, it's like a dance. I'm not running anymore, getting totally out in the zone and thinking of dinner or whatever else. I'm really, it's a dance. And I hope that that transition has happened to some of the people that I worked with. Yeah.
Okay, Anthony.
Yeah. I mean, I would kind of say maybe twofold. Like I would say the same thing as what Harold said. Like there is this 100% notice of enjoyment, like this more awareness of how enjoying or how I can enjoy running. But on the flip side,
let me interrupt you just real briefly, Harold. I don't want to hold you if you have to go.
Yeah, I'll step away. Thank you very much for.
Oh, I am so thrilled.
Yeah.
Really, I'd like to maintain the contact and maybe be a little bit more involved. I really like what you're doing.
Great. And Anthony and Devin are going to wrap it up. See
Yeah.
you then.
Yeah, I'll let you guys wrap it up. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I did know I want to respect his time. So
yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, so it's like I was saying, like there's kind of this enjoyment that has newfound enjoyment that has kind of worked its way into a run. But at the same time, like I'm I still like to race, right? I like that kind of competitive stuff. And just by that sheer, like what I recognized was the day before I saw Harold for the first time, I was running in mud. The day after, I wasn't running in as much mud. Like that's the feeling that I had, right? All of a sudden, like I had a little bit more shoulder, maybe a little bit more hip involvement with that rotation. So I wasn't running with my legs anymore. I was running with my body. And it's so crucial to understand the connection from the back of the head all the way down to the arch of your foot, right? That long string tendon that like weaves in and out of muscle and attaches to a bone, but it doesn't stop. It keeps going, right? It's almost pinched to the bone. And so to understand that it's all one system, it so changes, right? Breath changes whether you enjoy your run or not, right? If you start hyperventilating, your brain's going to go crazy. It's going to go into panic mode, right? We can start talking about vagus nerve if we want to go like crazy about it, but it's all these same things that, right, where enjoyment comes when the connection is fluid. And enjoyment starts to wave or wane just a little bit when there's a break in that connection. And I use that with our mindfulness clients that are in therapy, that we like, if we don't have this flow, this connection between everything, something it has to have tension that doesn't need it. Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about meditation, we breathe. Let's slow down everything so we can find the tension. Then let's take a moment and notice where the tension is and maybe how can I alleviate some of that tension. It does the same thing if you're standing there talking to somebody, creates a little joy, as if I'm running. If I eliminate some of that tension that doesn't need to be there, I enjoy the movement, the flow of what's happening. And it really is contrary to what, right, our whole kind of American way of training is, right? Like what happens at mile 20 of my marathon? Oh, I got to dig in and work harder. Like I got to go finish. Well, all you're doing is you're going to pull a hamstring. Like you don't want harder. You want more fluid. You want more efficient. Exactly. You want more oxygen. You actually want more of the relaxation response, not more of the power, not more of the muscle engagement. And that's right. It goes back to that topic of habit, right? If my habit is always to work harder when the going gets tough, well, the older you get, the more injury shows up, right? Yeah. And so it's really learning this process of when the going gets tough, be more efficient. When the going gets tough, use your body the way that it was designed to in a more efficient way. Don't force it to do what you want it to do.
Right. Respect your body.
Yeah.
I counterintuitively, I found that as I hiked several hundred miles on the PCT this year, that when I finally learned in the afternoon, I learned that I have to eat. Mm-hmm. You know, because you can't be out there day after day without eating. You go a week with that, and you're just depleted. Mm-hmm. And so you have to eat. So I began to take a break every hour, even if it was only 5 or 10 minutes, eat and drink. Mm-hmm. And then I found that I could do a certain number of miles. And then I found that if in the afternoon now, the early afternoon where the sun is just getting past where it's the hottest, if I would take maybe an hour and a half, even a 2-hour break and eat 2 or 3 times as much, I could actually do a lot more miles in that day than if I just tried to push through and keep, taking the shorter breaks. So in any of these things, even when I was watching Usain Bolt this morning, very, very, very fluid. Mm-hmm. And not the kind of guy who couldn't move his head and look around. So that's absolutely it. And I've really enjoyed this. Is there anything else that you would like to say to people who might be listening?
And I would just say, maybe kind of look inside if it resonates. Take a chance, take a little bit of a risk. Come to a place where, I think the majority of us are really good at creating a safe environment, right? My wife's a therapist. I do mindfulness, right? Devin's working with actors and actresses, right? And Harold is in physical, like we're trying to create this space of safety and comfort and the ability to go explore. And there's no better place than Salida that we think is a place that actually kind of embraces all of that. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, check out our website. Hope to see you at an upcoming retreat, and thanks for the opportunity to talk to you today.
Oh, it's been fantastic. ElevatedRetreatsCO.com.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and end this here.